The richest man in ancient Rome died with molten gold poured down his throat. Not poison, not a knife, gold. And here's the twist. He kind of asked for it. This is Marcus Crassus. How rich was Crassus? His personal fortune equaled the entire annual budget of the Roman state. One man, one treasury. He even said it himself. Nobody is truly rich unless he can afford his own private army. So how do you make that kind of money in ancient Rome? Simple. You wait for houses to catch fire. See, Rome had no fire department, so Crassus built his own in 500 trained slaves with buckets. But here's the catch. When your house caught fire, his crew just stood there, watching, while Crassus made you an offer. Sell me your burning home, right now, for pennies. Say yes, and the buckets fly. Say no, enjoy the ashes. He bought half of Rome this way, fire by fire, deal by deal. But Crassus had one problem money couldn't fix. His pals, Caesar and Pompey, had military glory, statues, parades. Crassus had receipts. So at age 60, he bought himself an army and invaded Parthia. No strategy, no reason, just ego. It was the most expensive mistake in Roman history. At the Battle of Carrhae, Parthian horse archers shredded his legions, 20,000 Romans dead. His own son's head paraded on a spear, and when Crassus was finally captured, the Parthians remembered exactly who he was. Legend says they melted gold and poured it down his throat. You thirsted for it, they said. Now drink. The richest man in Rome, killed by the one thing he could never get enough of. And believe it or not, he's not even the dumbest man on this list. In 1661, one man threw the greatest party France had ever seen, fireworks, dinner on solid gold plates, 6,000 guests. 3 weeks later, he was arrested, and by D'Artagnan. Yes, that D'Artagnan. His crime? The party was too good. This is Nicolas Fouquet. Fouquet was the finance minister of France, and somehow also the richest man in it. His personal motto, what heights can I not climb? His symbol, a squirrel, a very, very rich squirrel. He built himself Vaux-le-Vicomte, a chateau so beautiful, it made every palace in France look like a barn, including the king's. So in August 1661, Fouquet invited young King Louis XIV over to show off. Dinner served on solid gold plates. A brand new comedy, written for that single evening by Molière himself. And for the finale, fireworks. Something most guests had never seen in their lives. It was the greatest flex in French history. There was just one problem. The king was 22, and watching a servant live better than him. Louis wanted to arrest him at dessert. His mother said, "Not at his own party, dear." So Louis smiled, said thank you for a lovely evening, and waited. 3 weeks later, D'Artagnan, the real captain of the Musketeers, arrested Fouquet on the king's orders. The trial dragged on for 3 years. The judges voted for exile. And then Louis did something no French king had ever done. He overruled his own judges to make the punishment worse. Life in prison. Fouquet spent 19 years locked in a mountain fortress and died in his cell. And his beautiful chateau? Louis hired the exact same architect, the same painter, the same gardener, and told them, now build me something bigger. They built Versailles. Fouquet threw one party and paid with everything. But the next man on this list makes him look careful. He didn't just lose his own fortune, he bankrupted all of France. This man invented the word millionaire. He also invented something you probably have in your pocket right now, paper money. And with those two inventions, he bankrupted an entire country. This is John Law. Law was a Scottish gambler, not a lucky one, a mathematical one. He could calculate card odds faster than anyone alive. He was also a convicted killer. At 23, he killed a man in a duel, got sentenced to death, escaped from prison, and ran off to Europe. So how does a fugitive gambler end up running the finances of the most powerful kingdom on earth? Timing. France was drowning in debt. Louis XIV had built Versailles, fought half of Europe, and left the country broke. The government needed a miracle, and Law walked in with one. What if money didn't have to be gold? Just print paper and then back it with a company. His Mississippi company owned trading rights to half of North America. The shares went up, then UP. A share worth 500 livres hit 10,000. Servants who bought early became rich overnight. The French had to invent a brand new word just to describe these people: millionaire. By 1720, law ran France's bank, its trade, and its treasury. And then somebody asked one small, innocent question: can I trade my paper back for gold? The answer was no. There wasn't enough gold in all of France. Panic spread like fire. Thousands of people crushed against the bank's doors, waving worthless paper. The whole system collapsed in months. Law fled the country in disguise, and the man who invented the millionaire died in Venice. Broke, playing cards for rent money, he bankrupted one country. But the next man on this list did something even stranger. He built the biggest car company on earth twice and lost it twice. This man founded General Motors, the biggest car company on earth. Then he lost it. So he founded another company, you might know it, Chevrolet, and he used Chevrolet to buy General Motors back. Then he lost it again, and the man who built two car empires spent his final years managing a bowling alley. This is Billy Durant. Durant didn't even like cars. He thought they were noisy, dangerous toys. He made his first fortune selling horse carriages, the biggest carriage maker in America. But in 1904, he took one ride in a Buick and never looked back. Durant had one superpower: buying companies. He bought Buick, then Oldsmobile, then Cadillac. He glued them all together and called it General Motors. But there was a problem. Durant couldn't stop buying. Ever. In 2 years, he swallowed nearly 30 companies, including one that made light bulbs. By 1910, GM was drowning in debt, and the banks took his company away. Most men would quit. Durant started over with a race car driver named Louis Chevrolet. The new company exploded. And here's the genius part. Durant quietly traded Chevrolet stock for GM stock, share by share, year by year. In 1916, he walked back into the GM boardroom as the owner, the greatest comeback in business history. And then he did it all again. The bad part. In 1920, GM stock started falling. Durant decided he would stop it by buying every share himself, with borrowed money. He spent $90 million trying to hold up the entire stock market with his own hands. It didn't work. It never works. Durant lost everything: his company, his fortune. By 1936, he was officially bankrupt. The founder of General Motors ended up running a bowling alley in Michigan, greeting customers at the door. But here's the twist. Durant never saw it as a tragedy. Money, he said, that's easy to make. And compared to the last man on our list, maybe he was right, because the next guy made $100 million in a single day and still lost it all. October 1929. The stock market collapses. Millions of people lose everything in a single week. Fortunes vanish, banks fail, and in the middle of all that chaos, one man makes $100 million in a matter of days. He bet against everyone and won. This is Jesse Livermore, the greatest trader who ever lived. And by the end of this story, he'll be broke too. Livermore started with $5. At 14, he was posting stock prices on a chalkboard in Boston. He watched the numbers so long he started seeing patterns nobody else saw. So he began betting and winning so much that every gambling house in Boston banned him. They called him the Boy Plunger. By 1907, he was rich. By 1925, he was one of the richest men in America. Yacht, private rail car, an office with a secret elevator. Then came 1929. While everyone was buying, Livermore looked at his patterns and saw a cliff. So he did the unthinkable. He bet the entire market would crash. Everyone said he was insane. The market crashed. And Livermore's short positions made him $100 million, worth billions today. Newspapers called him the man who broke the market. Angry mobs blamed him for the crash. He needed bodyguards just to leave the house. So how do you lose that? Slowly, then suddenly. Livermore broke his own trading rules, the rules that made him rich. He held losing positions. He doubled down. He chased losses like the gamblers he used to beat. By 1934, the $100 million was gone. Bankrupt. For the fourth time in his life. But this time there was no comeback left in him. In 1940, he was gone, convinced wrongly that his whole life had been a failure. The greatest trader in history couldn't beat the market's oldest rule: nobody wins forever.